Welcome to King Kong Kids Storytime. Today I have two fairy tales for you from Eastern Europe, and they are about people who got greedy. The first one is called The Giant Oak Tree. It's from Russia, and it was written for us by Xavier Perrotta. It's called The Giant Oak Tree. Once there was an old couple named Marek and Masha. They lived in a tumble-down cottage on the edge of a great forest where, it was said, witches and wizards roamed at night. Behind the cottage was a stream, and beyond the stream, a little field where Marek and Masha grew turnips and beets, which they boiled up for stew. It was the only food they had tasted for years. One year, it got so cold, the beets froze and rotted underground, and starving rats gnawed the turnips, leaving only the stalks to perish in the frost. "The holy saints have pity on us," cried Masha. "We have nothing to eat at all." "The saints will not let us die," Marek consoled her. "We'll go into the woods and find some food." Their stomachs rumbling with hunger, the couple put on their threadbare coats and trudged across the frozen stream into the forest. All day long they searched for something to eat, but in vain. Not a single nut or berry was to be had. Masha was sure they were going to starve when, quite by chance, they came across a clearing. In the middle of it was an ancient oak tree, and strewn all over the ground were hundreds upon hundreds of ripe acorns, gleaming in the dust like pearls. "It's a miracle," gasped Masha. "We're saved." And she fell to the ground and stuffed handful after handful of acorns in her mouth. When the pair had eaten their fill, they filled a sack and dragged it home. There they heaved the sack onto the table and gorged themselves again, relishing the bitter fruit as if it were roast goose and apple sauce, or fried sausages with sweet onions. When they were full to bursting, Marek swept all the remaining acorns back in the sack, save one tiny one, which fell unnoticed through a hole in the floorboards and landed in the cellar below. "Marek, there's someone knocking at the door," said Masha a week or so later. "Oh, there's no one there, dear," muttered her husband, looking outside just to make sure. "But I can hear knocking," insisted Masha. Marek pricked up his ears. Yes, he could hear knocking too. Under his feet. Was there a burglar in the cellar? A wild boar? A witch? Fetching a lamp, he opened the creaking cellar door to investigate. "It's a tree," he called back to Masha. "It's grown all over the cellar. The branches are scraping against the kitchen floor." "Chop it down," replied his wife. "We need more firewood." "It's an oak," said Marek. "Oh, let's keep it. In time, we will have our own supply of acorns." very same day, he removed the kitchen floor, stacking the worn floorboards outside on the woodpile. Strengthened by the light, the sapling spread its branches, growing faster and thicker till it had filled every corner of the little cottage. Soon its topmost twigs were searching out the cracks in the ceiling, eager to find a way out. Marek, fearing the house would collapse on him and Masha, pulled it down. He used the wood from the old building to build a cozy treehouse. It had a front door they could reach with a ladder and a window looking south to where the swallows would be returning in the spring. Not long afterward, the sack of life-saving acorns ran out. There was no chance of finding any more now that the ground lay under a sheet of ice as thick as a coffin lid. Marek said, let me climb up the oak. I might find some eggs in a nest. Bring lots, said Masha. Then we could eat some and paint the rest to hang on the branches for good luck. Marek put on his coat and started climbing up the tree, using the branches like the rungs on a ladder. The saints be praised, he said to himself. This tree must be growing through the gates of heaven itself. Not quite. The tree stopped just above the clouds, and Marek came to a field, floating there in the sky, embroidered with flowers and smelling like spring. He planted his foot on it, and it didn't give way. So he walked across the field through the nodding flowers till he came to a castle. The place was deserted, eerie, silent. The front gate was open, showing a wide corridor hung with tapestries. Marek entered. To his amazement, there was only one door in the castle he could open. Behind it was a vast dining hall with only one table. And on that table was only one object, a hand mill, such as cooks use for grinding fresh pepper. Only this hand mill was twice the size of an ordinary one, and it was made of solid gold. Marek was wondering where to go next when a rooster flew in through the only window and landed on his shoulder, shaking a coxcomb as red as fire. "Take the hand mill, it's yours," cried the rooster. "Mine? How could it be mine?" asked Marek. "I've never seen this thing before." He was not at all surprised to hear a rooster talk. After all, had he not just climbed a giant oak and discovered a new land in the sky? "It is mine to give," said the rooster. "Take it, and take me with you too. I cannot bear to greet another sunrise in this deserted castle." So Marek put the hand mill carefully under one arm, and with the rooster clinging to his shoulder, climbed down the oak to the treehouse. "A nice plump bird for the pot," exclaimed Masha when she saw the rooster. The bird, settling on a branch out of her reach, cackled loudly and said, "You do not need to twist my neck for your supper, good madam. Just turn the handle on the mill and see what happens." Masha took the hand mill and gave the handle a turn. To her amazement, a pancake fell out, warm and fragrant with toasted sugar. She pinched a little in her fingers and popped it in her mouth. What buttery softness! What sugary sweetness! Masha started to drool. She turned the handle again. Another pancake followed, this one smothered with fresh cream. Soon the table was piled high with pancakes, one for every turn of the mill. Masha and Marek fell upon them and, with no regard for manners, devoured them all. Then the rooster cried, "So much for the appetizers. Now turn the handle the other way and see what happens next." Masha did as the bird instructed, and this time out of the mill tumbled a pie, an apple and cherry pie. And what a pie! It smelled delicious and tasted divine. Marek and Masha wolfed it down. Then they cranked out another, a dozen more, a larderful. When they couldn't eat any more, they crumbled the crusts and fed the rooster, the birds on the windowsill, and the foxes that had been lured to the tree by the aroma of baking pastry. At last, their stomachs stretched to bursting, Masha and Marek fell into bed. "Ahoy there! Anyone home?" Marek looked out of the window. A nobleman was coming down the forest path on his white charger. He seemed lost and tired. His fine clothes were soaked through with rain. He'd been out hunting with his friends, the knight explained, but he'd become separated from his party. Could he come into the treehouse and shelter from the rain? "You can have a pancake and a pie, too, while you're waiting for the sky to clear up," laughed Masha, welcoming the fine lord up the ladder. She was eager to share her good fortune with others. The knight's eyes grew as wide as dinner plates when he saw the handmill cranking out food. "How much do you want for that marvel?" he asked. "I'm willing to pay anything. A treasure chest full of gold or diamonds, a corner of my estate even." "What would old people like us do with land and diamonds?" said Masha, putting the handmill back in the larder. "This treasure is enough for us." But the noble lord had never taken no for an answer in all his life. Such a useful bauble, he thought, such magic. He had to have it. Imagine his friends' faces when he set the mill to work at dinner. In the middle of the night, the nobleman slunk out of bed, opened the larder, and slipped out of the treehouse with the mill. For all his good manners, he was an experienced thief, and by the time Masha and Marek got up, he was already out of the forest. We've been robbed, howled Masha. Swindled, cried Merrick. I'll show him. Masha reached for her iron ladle. No, I'll chase the thief, said the rooster. I am quicker on my wings than you on your aged feet. And off he flew, diving and dodging through the trees, because roosters, especially plump ones, cannot fly very high. When he caught up with the nobleman, the thief was galloping up the drive to his castle. The rooster perched on the front gate and crowed, a little out of breath. Cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, give me back the hand-mill, you. The knight, getting off his horse, turned angrily to his guards. Catch that bird and drown it in the well. The guards, all swords and spears, chased the rooster all around the estate. When they caught him, they threw him down the well. The rooster, shaking his coxcomb with outrage, chanted, Open beak, drink the water, every drop, do not falter. And he opened his mouth and drank all the water in the well, till not a drop was left. Then he shook his feathers dry and flew back to the castle keep. By now the knight was getting ready for bed. The rooster perched himself on the balcony outside his bedroom and crowed, quite out of breath, Cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, give me back the hand-mill, you. I thought I'd seen the last of that annoying chicken, snapped the knight, and he ordered his servants to roast the bird. The servants chased the rooster with their pots and pans. When they caught him trying to regain his breath in a rose bush, they thrust him in the oven. The rooster was not at all put out. His red coxcomb matching the flames, he chanted, Open beak, spill the water, every drop, do not falter. And all the water he had drunk in the well poured out of his beak and flooded the oven, putting out the fire and filling the kitchen with steam. The rooster preened his feathers, straightened out his coxcomb, and stole into the knight's bedroom. He perched himself on the carved headboard and wheezed, hardly able to talk, Cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, give me back the hand-mill, you. The nobleman's wife, who couldn't sleep on account of her husband's snoring, sat up and screamed, There's a ghost in the room! And she flung off the bedclothes and ran out. The knight, woken by her shrieks, followed her. Then his guards and servants, seeing their master had nothing on but his wedding ring, ran after him with a fur coat. They left the castle gates open and forgot all about the hand-mill on the kitchen table. The rooster picked up the mill in his beak and flew back home to Masha and Merrick. Pausing only for a large breakfast, the old couple set about moving their house further up the tree, where no thief could reach it. And there they and the rooster feasted on pancakes and pies for the rest of their lives.